Welcome to the Banfield Report of the 14th of July 2011. My name is Max Banfield. I'm the author of a book and a website called The Posture Theory. Today will be part 3 of my talk on the causes of postural problems and spinal deformities. My talk is directed to parents and teachers with the view to providing information on the causes and methods of preventing these problems in children and students. I'll begin my talk by mentioning the word kyphosis, which means forward curvature of the upper spine. In the extreme case, it's the hunchback physique, and scoliosis, which is sideways curvature of the spine. The term kyphoscoliosis describes the combined features. When I was reading the literature on this subject, I found that in 20% of cases the cause was known, and we mentioned that in 80% of the cases the cause was unknown or obscure. And the known causes were mentioned as genetic factors, injuries to the spine, and infections of the spine such as tuberculosis of the spine. However, I also was aware that in the same general literature the causes are actually mentioned, and that's what I'll be discussing today, those 80%. However, before I start, I'll mention that the shape of the human spine varies naturally from birth to old age, and I'll be discussing variations on those natural shapes. In infancy, vitamin D deficiency can cause a condition called rickets, in which the spine weakens and can collapse forwards under the weight of the head and shoulders, as you can see there. And if that child reached adulthood, they would look something like this. And there are variations in severity, of course. However, later in the child's life, if there weren't any problems of that nature, they may contract a contagious illness that involves nausea, vomiting, poor appetite, weight loss, and that's the secondary type of nutritional problem. And the spine of the child may weaken and therefore curve forward under the weight of the head and shoulders in normal daily activities, and then as an adult it will tend to have that shape retained. The next area that I'd like to discuss is periods of rapid growth. For example, in teenage years, two students the same height, same weight, eat the same amount of food, and one grows rapidly. Now, if that person was to increase their food intake, it probably wouldn't make any difference. But if they're growing rapidly, eating the same amount of food, then the spine would become weaker, and this student would lean forwards to read. The student would have to lean further forwards, and so in the growing phase, then curvature of the spine can occur for reasons somewhat like that. And if the spine's curved at that age, then that would tend to be the curvature as an adult. Towards adulthood, I'll just show you an illustration of that. That just gives you a general idea what I mean. In adulthood, the spine is hardened, and the bones are less likely to change in their shape. It'll take longer periods of time, require more force. Having said that, there are influences on the spine, and one is pregnancy in women. And as you can see from this illustration, as the womb enlarges, it can draw the abdomen forward and the lower spine behind it into a curve. And this illustration here shows that more clearly, the large womb and the effect on the spinal bones, that curve there. And of course it's more of a feature in twins and pregnancy, and after childbirth some women can have a residual curvature as a result of that. Later in life, another problem that's more common in women is osteoporosis, and that weakens the spine, and if a woman already has a slight curvature, the weakness of the spine at that age can increase the curvature. Okay, so that covers about 60 to 70% of that 80%. Most of it's covered, but there are other causes, and I'll mention a few. Dieting results in weight loss, reduced nutrition, and that can have an influence. And then there's overweight with a large abdomen. I've got an illustration here that shows a man with a large chest in the top illustration. Increased size of the abdomen probably increase the size of the chest, whereas if the chest is not as deep in at the outset, then the abdomen may protrude forwards, and that can draw the lower spine forwards and increase the curvature of the upper spine in a corresponding way. So that's that feature. Another aspect is the shape of a person's shoes, in particular the height of the heels. That can influence the shape of the spine and the shape of the foot. And there are studies and remedies for those influences on the spine. And then there is ergonomics, and that is the height of the chairs, the height of the desk, the height of the screen, and the distance of the screen from the individual. They can determine whether the person is sitting in a natural way or whether they're always leaning forward, and that can have an influence. Now, a teacher can move the screen closer to a student to prevent that, or if the student is aware of that sort of issue, then they can do that themselves to prevent these sorts of problems. Having said that, it just about covers the 80% of unknown causes in addition to the 20% which were mentioned before, and these are available in the same sort of literature. And what this means is that there is the situation where strategies for prevention can be used. Some people might say, "I'll wait till technology comes and improves a lot of this," but it's already known. Time-lapse camera on a person for life might be known in 100 years from now, but that doesn't that is no value to the current generation. So what I like to do is just mention one aspect, but people aren't born with knowledge. That comes from education and experience. And so an infant with vitamin D deficiency develops rickets. In an uneducated society, he's likely to grow with that problem as a feature. However, in a educated society, that sort of problem will be identified, the nutrition can be improved, and the problem can be remedied before it becomes a serious issue. And the same sort of preventive measures can be applied across this range of causes. Okay, I'll end my talk by showing a picture of a South Australian landmark called the Old Gum Tree down at Glenelg. As you can see, the curvature of that tree. The same sorts of factors that contribute that are what's involved in curvature of the human spine. And some people might say, "Oh, that's a mysterious cause." Well, it's not really. There's actually a limited number of factors that can cause a tree to grow in that manner, and a farmer would say he can grow 100 trees all the same general shape, and if one of the trees started to grow like that, he would straighten it at the outset to prevent it from going any further. And having said that, these ideas are the subject of my interest in posture and health and the history of the subject, and therefore they are my copyright. You're welcome to discuss and write about these ideas, but please acknowledge the source of the information. Other than that, thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting and informative. My name is Max Banfield, and this has been the Banfield Report of the 14th of July 2011.